That's the thesis. Now we're going to go into the sightings. Are you ready? Are you ready, Ian?
Yeah, let's buckle up for some more high strangeness, Jeff.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. I live in beautiful Vancouver. I love my city. I absolutely love my city. I never leave Vancouver. We have beaches. We got the whole thing here. So this is where I live. So, but it's on its sheer strangeness I didn't know about until I read the database. So in 1966, two people saw a portal. A portal literally opened up over top of UBC, right over here. They were actually over here on the highway, they said, and they witnessed it. It was so large, they were able to witness a yellow portal open up over top UBC. I thought that was really neat. There's the details of that. Two people witnessed a light being emerge out of the forest at White Cliff Park over here. And that was recorded by ufobc. In 1968, right over here, a UFO landed. Apparently, the report is a bit strange. I have to admit, it's from one person. He treated it very nonchalantly. Maybe a human could do that. I don't know. He was not fazed by there being a 4-foot tall non-human man. He heard a voice in his head, and it said, "Would you like to pray?" And he bowed and put his hands down. Anyway, there's a whole exchange here. I said a few more things and then waved, and he waved back. That's a very strange, strange sighting.
Yeah, Jeff, I just wanted to say in there that's typical of what Jenny Randalls from the UK coined the term the Oz factor, where people behave differently in the presence of UFOs.
Behave differently? What do you mean by that?
Certainly the way he was very accepting and compliant with what was going on and not running for the hills and screaming, "What's going on? This is a bit crazy," or whatever. It seems to be another case where the compliance, he drops down his guard, and again he's accepting of what's going on before his eyes, even though it's the most absurd situation.
1974, over at Mount Cyprus, there was actually a UFO landing on the back side of the mountain. Here's Mount Cyprus. On the back side, two workers came across a bandana logging road, or I think it's a maintenance road, and there was a UFO up top of a rock outcropping. So it was kind of sitting on the rock outcropping, and they just simply didn't know what it was. It had no definition. I think they said it was white and just maybe the size of a car or a little bit larger, and they didn't know what it was. And they grabbed a hammer and a wooden I think a wooden bar or something to maybe knock on it and do things with it. As they approached it, it said, "Turn around." They didn't talk to each other. They just got a message from it, and that was it. They were terrified. They went into the truck and they never spoke to each other. They went back down, and then they were maintenance workers. They told other people about it, and they were like laughing at them. They told their parents. The parents are the ones who took it to UFOBC. UFOBC went and investigated, and there was actually a burn mark on top of the rock outcropping. So that was a really interesting case. Okay, this one is fun. I love this. This one is and this involves a synchronicity, if you really think about it. If you look at the synchronicity, it ends up being a communication. So this is Mount Fromme. Again, we're on the cusp here of Vancouver, right on the cusp, and you get all this kind of paranormal activity up in the mountains. 5 companions decided to party on Mount Fromme. They parked and hiked up for an hour and a half to a cabin. They were sitting around with a ghetto blaster playing when 2 of the members noticed flashes of lights in amongst the trees. When they turned off the ghetto blaster, a sound could be heard that resembled a high-pitched generator. One person, Mark, walked away from the group about 20 to 30 feet until he was underneath the source of the sound, which seemed to be above the 80-foot pine trees. The noise, which had now changed to a distinct pulsing, was so intense that he had to put his hands over his ears. Another companion later said that the noise seemed to send a wave through his head. The pulsing sound continued for another 5 to 10 seconds and then stopped. The whole thing lasted 45 seconds. There's UFOBC ties to it a bunch of other activity that happened in the area. So that's really fascinating. But the synchronicity is, listen, blaring it through the forest, and then something else, what are the statistical chances of having a paranormal event that also displays a really loud sound that you have to plug your ears from? I just think, that's a synchronicity. You have to look at what that means. And at the end of the day, it looks like something was annoyed that these people were blaring music out and, maybe disturbing the environment. We don't know the exact meaning, but the synchronicity behind it in and of itself ends up being a communication. And I just thought that was a really fascinating case. Okay, now we're getting personal with me. So yeah, I live in a weird place, eh? We live in Vancouver is a strange, high strangeness area. I live on Cambie Corridor. This strip right here, boom, is my neighborhood. I won't tell you exactly where I am, but oddly enough, I'm on a highway of a lot of paranormal activity that I wasn't aware of. Like I think I've mentioned before, I've taken a lot of pictures of things that are in the area, but you know, the observation effect, I'm convinced they know when they're revealing something that will be able to be on a video versus when they're not. Yet they want me to know, so they're remaining distant enough that I can observe I'm witnessing something strange, and it'll be synchronistic. It will be around a presentation I was having, or maybe I was disturbed by the aliens about my story, and I don't want to talk about my story anymore, and then all of a sudden they're there. So for me, the synchronicity was a communication in and of itself. Ian, you remember the time I emailed you?
Yeah, I do.
I have 2 UFO videos on my website, and it's the second one. It says disappearing, and you see an orb, and I videoed them disappearing. Well, this was taken maybe a minute or two, or maybe a couple minutes before, and you can't tell what it is. For an observer who doesn't know, that's going to look like a star or something. It's actually a white orb, and it was moving gently, and then it just disappeared in sight. And then I had the sightings literally just minutes, or maybe 10 minutes later, right? So I took a picture, but this is the type of activity that was happening around me. I have tons of stuff, tons of things, but you can't see what's going on here. There's a thing I was trying to film. It's moving back and forth. It's changing colors. This was around a presentation, right? You can see right there, but it zigzags. It goes back and forth anyway. But I couldn't do anything with these videos. But there's just tons of activity in my neighborhood. So I'm getting yes and no responses from flashes of lights. The orb is staying still. I'm getting yes and no flashes. And I'm saying yes, please say this or say that. It says yes and flashes. And then I'm like, can I film you? And I try to get the camera in, and as soon as I do that, she flutters out, pop, 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 and then disappears. So, she doesn't want to be filmed. It's pretty much, I say she, because I'm pretty convinced it's the elder. So you can't really even see that. It's just, right? I don't even do anything with these videos, but I'm showing them here today because like a lot of activity happens around me. And so you can see that I'm trying to film something there. You can't get it. This one, okay. This one was standing still. It was a red. You can't tell with the high contrast. It's a red orb. It sat there for like 5 minutes. This was around a presentation. I did a presentation I'm doing a presentation in a couple of days, or I did it just afterwards. And it sat there, and then it moved. Does a weird zigzag and moved up. But it would do that every 5 or 10 minutes, and it would just sit there. And then, I expect these reports to be in the news or something, and there's nothing ever. It's such a weird component to this. So you can't tell what these are. But I'm just kind of showing that these are the classic videos I have. And this is all part of the Cambie Corridor. So these are definitely the red guys that I've filmed, and they're on my website. So I just wanted to share those. Okay, so the Cambie Corridor is a strange place. So check this out. This is City Hall. That is along the Cambie Corridor. That is, City Hall is right along here somewhere. So on the Cambie Corridor, someone got a picture of a UFO above City Hall. Synchronicity, the guy was not taking a picture of a UFO. He was taking a picture of City Hall. The UFO shows up while he's got the camera set up, and the UFO aligned itself with City Hall. He takes the photo, and then the thing flies upwards, and it freaks the 2 men out. The whole story is here. It's fascinating as hell. But it's a synchronicity that UFO wanted to be shot. There's no way, plus the observer effect, there's no way that UFO did not know it was going to be taken a picture of. It's just the timing of it couldn't have been any more weirder. And so it ends up with being this very fascinating shot. It ended up being blue. Apparently the UFO was blue. So that's here along the Cambie Corridor. But there's tons of sightings over City Hall. City Hall, we had one in 96, City Hall, orange wobbling UFO. Queen Elizabeth Park is just up the street along, there's QE Park. This is Cambie right here. These are all the sightings along the Cambie Corridor. This is all in the neighborhood. Everything just, a block or two away outside, and people are observing. I live in an area that is high traffic for UFO. I had no idea.
Well, here's the thing, Jeff. I just wanted to say, for many years, probably going back to 1956 with Amy Michelle, he did the UFOs and the Straight Line Mystery, followed up by Major Donald Kehoe and John Keel as to these sort of tracks. And let's say, trajectories that were being plotted. And that was later covered by other people who had looked at the harmonic 33, Bruce Cathy from,
Right.
and so the UFOs in a straight line, it's no coincidence really to me to see that you've uncovered the evidence that this is like a UFO highway in this area. And hey presto, there's City Hall along that route. Is this route based on some sort of ancient ley line or some energy path that is then being used by UFOs?
Interesting, man. Interesting. Yeah,
Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, well, what's fascinating about the hill? So it actually crests. There's actually a ridge right here, but it might be something to do too with it being north-south. Right? It's a north-south road actually. So yeah, I'm not really clear. It's fascinating as hell though, and you're totally right. Like there's something kind of going on in the area. Also, by the way, to connect paranormal, ghost activity on the corner of Cambie and King Edward Road. The house is known to be haunted. It's kind of a famous, well-known haunted house in Vancouver. It's actually been destroyed now, unfortunately. So who knows what happens to the ghost there? But right along the pathway, very strange indeed. This
interesting, Jeff.
Yeah.
It was at the crossroads in a corner, and I've come across that in my own investigations myself.
It's two major roads in that way. Actually, you're right on the bang on the corner. Cambie and King Edward is a kind of a second what do they call it when it's not a highway? It's an artery. It's arteries of Vancouver. You got it right on the corner.
Yeah. And that rings a bell with me with a case in Mexico that I dealt with, where the house, the occupants of the house on a corner where it was fed into a main artery of the city. Also, there was this is quite near the volcano Popocatépetl. There was a kind of like a tributary of water that was flowing down it. But they had all manner of UFO activity as well as ghost activity, cryptid activity, and all this going on in this one corner, right on the corner where these roads met.
Interesting stuff, man. Okay, so that video, Ian, so the second video with which I see the UFOs disappearing, the one with that emailed you, 8 days before. Let's take a look. Here's back up. 8 days before that. So I'm over here. This is my neighborhood. 8 days before, someone sees an orange orb, very similar, and they're living over here, Main and Marine. And so that's what this is. Main and Marine, orange spherical object, 8 days before my own second sighting, filmed October 1st, 2020. This is 23rd of September. Main and Marine Drive, bright orange lights. It was silent from what I could tell, and the orange was smooth and not really flashing. It was definitely circular and large, almost the size of a full moon. Very fascinating, man. This is Mystery and Marple. Okay. Okay, this one is on 70th. So right over here. This is 70th road right here. And so right on 70th, you have a very wacky story. So Rod, his name is Rod, comes home, 2 a.m., no drugs, only had 4 drinks. He passed out on the couch. His brother packed him off to bed and to lay him down, still fully clothed, with his boots and everything on. So he basically lies down in bed. 1 hour later, Rod has really been awakened by a light going on and a man standing beside him, shaking the cobwebs out of his head. He asked the guy, "What are you doing in my apartment?" In which the other guy says, "What are you doing in my apartment?" It was then to Rod's utter amazement that he realized he was standing in his basketball shorts in the middle of someone else's living room. Understandably, everyone was disturbed. After being asked to leave, he found himself in the apartment hall directly in front of his own entrance. So he turned the knob and he realized the door was locked. And so he's only in his shorts, he has no keys. So he's pounding on the door. His brother basically opens the door and everyone's shocked. Like, how the hell did you get outside? And why are you in that other guy's house? I just put you in your bed. And everyone's kind of freaking out. No one understands what's going on. Upon entrance, Rod immediately went to the living room to find his house keys, where he left them on the coffee table. He then hurried into his bedroom, and it was there, to his real surprise, there lying on the bed were his clothes laid out like he was still in them. Pants tucked in boots, socks unturned and still in his tied boots. Both he and his brothers were now completely freaked out by the early morning's activities. It now appears Rod, in his own description, was sucked out of his boots and clothes, left in his shorts, taken through 2 locked doors, and placed in another apartment without waking up. Quite a feat indeed. Rod.
Yeah.
And
It's an interesting note on that one that he had his modesty protected by leaving his boxer shorts on,
yeah.
but otherwise,
Yes, right. Yeah,
that.
there's some modesty, right? There's some like, yeah. So we don't want to totally embarrass you. That's a good point. That's a good point. Look, the socks are still in the boots. That's insane. I love this story. And everyone, the UFOBC, right? They go and investigate, and everyone, there's witnesses, and everyone, this is their story, and they all stick to it, right? And they're all bewildered and puzzled. And Rod is freaked out. He doesn't know what the hell happened, and he thinks that maybe this was alien abduction, but he doesn't really he doesn't appear to, be an abductee. He doesn't really have all the rest of the marks throughout the other portions of his life. So Rod asked, had I ever heard of anything like this? And I told him, indeed, it is one of the stranger ones I had personally been told about, but that on a grander scale, this kind of strangeness is not unheard of. Poor guy, right? In John Carpenter's paper, Alien Humor, he writes of mistakes by our friendly visitors that pop up from time to time. Clothes on backwards, inside out, and in other cases, the wrong clothes period have shown up on innocent sleepers while awakened. In a hurry, or just showing that, hey, everybody else makes mistakes. It is anybody's guess what is going on. And my whole thing is, I always say, these are deliberate things by the aliens themselves. That is, if it's an abduction, by the way. I don't know that. But if it is, my whole thing is that this is done on purpose. And they're paranormal, meaning they would come back in an ethereal form and watch what you do with that information. And they might be the ones also telling you in a ton of telepathy, like, go tell someone, and they want to see what you do with that information and how it kind of percolates and sifts through the human where databases it might go into and that kind of stuff. So I'm totally convinced that those are deliberate by the aliens. And it would make sense if they were a paranormal species. There's no way that these would be accidents. So that's my theory anyway, but fascinating as hell. That happened right around the corner from my house. So yeah, strange indeed.
Part of it true, Jeff, maybe down to what we call the trickster phenomena. It's kind of like the cosmic joke, as John Keel coined it.
Yeah,
the trickster phenomena.
Well, you'll see. So I'll mention that here with my own today with the elder, where they're playing with, it's like a joke for them. Like they're playing with my frame of reference. And so anyway, I'll have a thing here where, anyway, that's what she did with me. And I find it kind of funny personally when they do that. But okay, so my whole shtick, for those who know my story, is I kind of filmed these red orbs. And for me, there was a synchronicity with the red orbs, because the day that it happened, I was going to go talk to people about my alien contact the next night. That alone is a synchronicity. That for me is a communication. That is them saying, this is definitely us. There's the statistical chance of seeing a UFO the day before I was going to go talk to someone about my alien contact. That just seemed a bit too much random and or too unlikely to be random. And I took it right away as deliberate by them. Not just that, you have to understand how that the sighting happened. I couldn't have been any more on my couch and it be any perfectly placed in front of my eyes. It was perfectly right in front of my window. Not just that, it pans out to the left. So it's very, very visible. That whole thing for me was it was all part of an observation and all part of synchronicity. And I took it as a legitimate sighting. And it turns out these balls, these red orbs, are all over the place. And a lot of people actually see them. So you get a lot of these sightings. Red turned red in the sky, and then it stopped. Silent, bright red orbs, and then seemed to rise and fade out. Bright red, like a star, like a red star. As soon as it was there, it was gone. I noticed a glowing red ball, red in color. It was stationary above the horizon. Then it faded out of sight. Glowing red orb, then it vanished. All doing the same thing that mine did. And a bunch of them here. 5 red orbs, then it disappeared. 10 red orbs, then they faded and no longer visible. All in Vancouver. Look at that. Look at the times too, right? All recent. They appeared red lights, then disappeared, changing formations. Orange and red in color faded out. 2 red orbs, then disappeared. Very bright red, then went out. All of them. That's insane. And so we got someone else posting a red orb video.
Oh my 2012
What
alien.
the fuck is that?
So there it is. There, that's coming to the bridge.
God. Did we just see an
That's a
alien
plane.
right now?
So it comes off the bridge. I think they're in North Van.
Is it coming towards us? Oh my God.
And then it'll stop. And then it'll fade out.
Fuck. I see two of them.
And what year was this, Jeff? This was
This
filmed?
sighting, this one here,
Yeah. Yeah.
2012.
Yeah.
Alright, so it just stopped.
Yeah, it stopped. There you go. It just stops. And then it just disappears.
It just takes off.
Yeah. Look at that. You can see it disappear. Yeah.
Yeah, where's the second one?
Yeah. So interesting stuff, man. These guys are all over the place. Okay, so for me, these are great aliens. And my whole thing is, look at how docile they are. They're like, it's actually quite beautiful when you think about some of these things, the way they kind of slowly, gently move, creating weird formations, being gentle in the sky. These are gray aliens for me. And I can't say that all red orbs are gray aliens, because there are some cases where we have a red color and it turns off and then like a humanoid will come out. So all red orbs can't be gray aliens, but these ones are acting all kind of similar. For me, these are all the same things, and they're all gray aliens, and they're who, I don't know what they're doing. They're expressing themselves, or they're having fun, or who knows. I don't know what this stuff is, but fascinating though, nonetheless.
Jeff, I have a comment, if I may.
Hey Troy, yeah, what's that?
I think it's quite accurate that they might be testing us. I feel they might be testing us just by showing up in these very gentle ways, very silent, and then disappear. Probably testing our reaction to their sightings and see if we're even ready to react positively or neutrally, or in what way.
Awesome, man. I totally, yeah, bang on, especially, again, I come back to the paranormal. Yeah. And then they would be able to observe that, not in their physical bodies, coming back and looking at how we observe it. And then also what do you do with that information? Where does it go? Yeah, I think you're right. I think that bang on, man. I like it. I like it a lot.